If you're a hunter in Michigan, you probably saw last week when Ted Nugent testified in front of the state house. The whole committee was there and they basically were talking about the DNR overreach. Some of the committee members there were actually saying that they were being a resource against conservation based off of some of the acts that some of the officers were going against some of the committee members. One guy was actually talking about how the DNR actually cited him for baiting for his bird feeder, which is insane. So I just wanted to show this clip of Ted Nugent, kind of break it down, kind of see what he's talking about, and hopefully we can all have a healthy discussion in the comments about everything that he's saying. And let me know if you think that you're for what he's saying or you're against. Have you guys had any run-ins with the DNR in Michigan and had a bad experience or even a good one? I know that the whole mission statement of what they're supposed to do is be conservations of the land, but ultimately it's all of our responsibility.
I can cry tears of blood up here. There's no place I go where families don't come up to me with horror stories of being given a ticket because he has a salt block on his farm. And they'll do it under the lie of chronic waste disease that has been proven scientifically. This is not a guitar player's hunch. The science is in. People can't get chronic waste disease from a deer. Look it up. I looked it up. I studied with Dr. James Kroll and Dr. Christopher Seabury. People can't get chronic waste disease. And you can't mitigate it because it's the same scientific encephalopathy as scabies in sheep. And once it's in the soil, it's there forever.
So again, like I'm sure most of us have heard the whole thing since they stopped baiting about chronic waste disease, CWD. I personally haven't come across anybody who's harvested a CWD deer. And then on top of that, if you really break down the numbers, I believe since 2002, when they actually began tracking CWD, roughly 2% of all of the deer that have been sent off for testing for CWD, 2% have tested positive for chronic waste disease. So we are making this huge shift of like, we can't bait, we can't do anything else like that because of this one thing, chronic waste disease, because it's having such a big effect over the Michigan deer population of 2%. I personally have never submitted my deer for chronic waste disease testing. I can look at it and it looks like it's okay. And I'm sure a lot of you guys who harvest deer don't send it off for testing either. So that 2% actually becomes a lot lower because normal hunters aren't submitting their deer for testing.
And according to the DNR and the NRC, those billions of apples falling from the trees in Michigan are somehow going to cause a disease if I move them. That's insanity. And the people who enforce it and create these policies would qualify as insane. And they've ran people out of this state. An 18-year-old boy who got into bow hunting because of my TV show got a ticket because his bow case wasn't zipped up. There's a law in Michigan that wildlife policy has to be based on science. What's the science of a bow case?
This one is an interesting case too. And this one is sort of weird because if you're a DNR officer and you see someone carrying a bow, you would venture to think that it's not knocked or anything else like that. So let's just assume what Ted's talking about is that it's not knocked and he's just carrying the bow or the bow's in his car or whatever. You got to be pretty low to give the guy a ticket for not having his bow case zipped up all the way. Like, that's insane. But the law comes from Michigan legislature and it's going to come from section 324.43513. So in there it talks about an individual may carry, transport, or possess a firearm without having a hunting license if the firearm is unloaded and either enclosed in a case or carried in a vehicle in a location that is not readily accessible to transport, not readily accessible to any occupant of the vehicle. An individual may carry, transport, or possess a slingshot bow or crossbow without a hunting license if the slingshot bow or crossbow is unloaded and uncocked, enclosed in a case, or carried in a vehicle in a location that is not readily accessible to an occupant of the vehicle. So again, you really have to look at the finite details of it. Again, it says enclosed in a case, but if it's not knocked, it's in the back seat of the truck or anything like that, common sense should tell you that they don't mean any harm. There's no way it's going to accidentally go off if it's not knocked. So again, just some discretion is all that they're asking for.
So I got rid of that law. When I started hunting, some man thought he had control whether I hunted out of a tree or not. Is that man in attendance here that has control over my tree climbing? No man has control over my tree climbing. There were 11 counties that it was forbidden to hunt on Sunday. Who is the man that can intervene between God's nature and my recreational sporting spirit connection to the good earth that can tell me that somehow mysteriously the hunting season ends when the sun goes down on Saturday? That's insane. So we got rid of that law.
All right, so what Ted's talking here about hunting on Sundays, that actually used to be a thing in Michigan back in the 1920s through the 40s, that kind of stuff. There was actually too much noise being made on Sundays with rifles and firearms and things like that. So they actually made a law that said you can't hunt on Sundays. And so that passed. And so that, I think that's what he's referring to. I'm trying not to take it out of context, but from my research of what I found is that slowly as we got into, 1992, most of the counties actually repealed that to where you can hunt on Sundays. As of 2003, it looks like all counties in Michigan have been lifted from the restrictions of not being able to hunt on Sunday, which again is insane because most people work Monday through Friday and they only have 2 days during the week to hunt. And it's going to be Saturday and Sunday. So it's insane to even not be able to hunt on that day. So I agree with Ted on that. Like they shouldn't have done that in the first place, but it's been fixed. But I just wanted to stop the video so we can all kind of see what he was talking about and kind of know the reference.
The DNR and the NRC are the enemies of conservation in Michigan. I implore you, in the once great state of Michigan, the once #1 hunting state in the nation, let's return it to that responsible conservation, wise use ethic. Because right now, we are going down the toilet of abusive power and violations of science.
So I think Ted brings up some really great points on this, honestly. Like, I think that the overreach of the DNR has been pretty stretched. And I don't know if you guys watched this show. I think it's on Animal Planet. It's called Wardens of the North. That show is pretty wild because I think they're trying to do like a spin-off of the Warden show from Maine. And again, like I think that those guys from Maine actually are there to try and keep the wildlife and be good people, because realistically, those are hunters. Those are fathers, sons, everything out there. They get it. They understand and they know, hey, these guys are out here just trying to hunt, just trying to survive, just trying to live. And if you compare that to the wardens on the show in Michigan, it just seems like they're there for a job of, hey, like, I'm sorry, like this happened, but here's your ticket. Very rarely are they ever given a warning. It just seems like that's what's going to ruin and run people out of the sport, is when you're constantly, helicoptering over them. They literally do that in the show to try and find bait. But I'm using it as a metaphor now of you're helicoptering over all of these people. Oh, you're doing the wrong thing. You're doing the wrong thing. Some people just don't know. And yes, I know you can go out there and look and, hey, here's the law. But some people just don't do that. And you should be a good steward of the sport to go actually look into the laws. But you should also be a good mentor and say, hey, look, like you messed up this time. It seems like an honest mistake. I'm going to let you go with a warning this time, but if I catch you out here, like obviously, like, you're going to have to pay the fine. I believe that that's the way that it should be done. And I think that's how you keep more people into the sport. And I think that's how you actually, polish up the name of the DNR. You're not there to push your foot down and get it to everybody that messes up. You're there to make sure that everybody's following the rules. But again, have a good time. Like if you're out there and you're always just on these hunters, always out there, just like, hey, it's prime time and the deer are supposed to be moving right now, but you know what? I'm going to be walking through the woods and making sure that you're not messing anything up, making sure that you're to the letter of this handbook. That's what makes people get out of hunting. If I'm hunting public land and I see you during prime time, or, hey, this is when the deer start moving and you're just tromping through the woods, why am I going to go back out there? So the next steps from this committee hearing is basically they requested some documents from the DNR, and then after they review those documents, they're going to ask some of the DNR members to come and testify in front of the committee, and then based off of that, who knows? That's just the plan set right now. And from what I could find online, there's not necessarily any dates of anything really. So hopefully if you guys find anything about that, let me know. So then maybe we can make an updated video to this. But again, let me know your comments. I've personally never had any run-ins with the DNR. I know a couple people who have, and they all don't say great things about it. So let me know what you guys think. And again, thanks for watching the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.